Hi, I'm Daniel Likis,
And I'm Sal Cosenza.
and welcome to Abstract Essay. Abstract Essay is created to empower artists like us. Oh wow! Would you are you considering yourself as an artist, Mr. Sal?
Am I going to see myself as an artist? Or do I
Yes.
just
Can you
do I
just
describe myself as that?
yes? Or can are you considering yourself as an artist?
It's a very good question, right? What is
Mm,
what is art, right? I don't know. I think I am. I think I
yes.
do, but
Yes.
I think we all have some form of creativity, believe it or not.
Mm,
I
yes.
don't think that it could be taught. I think that it is just sort of innate.
It's
Um,
you. It's in your DNA.
yes.
Wow. Like Leonardo da Vinci. Because you're an
I
Italian, right? Italian. Italian does have.
Yes, he did it all, right? He was an engineer, he was an architect, he was an artist. He
Yeah.
oh my goodness. I
All of it.
love I love Renaissance artists.
Yes. 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 Speaking of books, people, please do read the autobiography of Leonardo da Vinci by Walter Isaacson. One of a kind. You will learn
Uh,
how Leonardo da Vinci is magnificent. And please, I want to plug in my Book 101 review. Please do listen to my other podcast, Book 101
mhm.
review in its fifth season already, and feature author of the month of January, Mr. Harry Turtledove, award-winning and best-selling author. I think Mr. Harry won the Hugo three times. Imagine three
Oh
times.
wow.
Hugo is, I think, um, the same with the Oscar for the artists,
For the
actor and actresses. So
nice.
winning those things is something else.
Yes. Check out Book 101 review and don't call him Da Vinci.
Da
Call him
Vinci.
Leonardo.
Da
That's one of
Vinci.
my pet peeves when people say, "Oh, the Da Vinci Code." It
Yes.
should actually be called the Leonardo Code because he's
Oh.
from he's from Vinci. So it's
Mm.
saying the from Vinci Code. It should be the Leonardo
Da
Code.
Vinci. Oh, Leonardo Code.
Like
Wow.
Da Vinci is not his last name.
Yes. Leonardo da
It's it's
Vinci.
it, it
The
it's one of my
place.
pet peeves. You said it correctly, Daniel, but
Uh,
like people always, I've noticed they say Da Vinci as if it's his last name. Anyway, I'm
yeah.
boring everyone. I'm going
No,
off
you're
on a
not.
rant.
It's a good information that to update other peoples that doesn't know. Oh,
I,
right.
there you go.
Yes, here we go. And Mr. Sal got some of the DNA. Oh, Mr. Leonardo da Vinci.
Thank you.
Imagine. Imagine. So, we're gonna give you a big hand, Mr. Sal Cosenza, for being part of the DNA of Mr. Leonardo da Vinci.
I didn't even do nothing yet.
Yes, you're now presenting one of your
Oh,
magnificent paintings of yours. Let's do
thank
the
you.
drum roll, please.
What a hell of a setup.
Yes,
Okay,
only one.
should
Why
I?
only one? I make more. Wait, drum roll, please. Yes,
Oh my gosh. You're like, who's the famous drummer?
famous
Ah,
drummer
I
for
forgot.
the
There's a
Beatles.
really right on.
Ringo,
Well, yeah, Ringo.
Gringo, Ringo,
No,
Ringo Starr,
Ringo. That
Ringo
was someone
Starr.
else.
Yes,
Anyway, should I share screen?
yes, please. So, what
Okay.
would be your magnificent painting of
Well,
yours?
well, magnificent. That's up to you and the viewer and listener to decide. But what I have here is my dark alter ego brought to life via painting form. Can you see the
Mm,
screen?
yes,
Okay, so this
Stranger
is
of New
called,
York.
yeah, so who is this stranger? I think we all have a stranger in all of us. It's sort of this, it's an alter ego, right? It's somebody who doesn't come out often, right? He's not going to parties. He's just sort of an insulary figure. He's hiding in a dark room. right? So I think we all have a little bit of that, right? So there's like
Mm.
Bruce Wayne and Batman. So I consider this character to be my alter ego. And so, ever since 2008, I've been sort of entertaining this concept here and there. And so this is the very first painting in the series. It eventually, right now anyway, it's up to 5 paintings. I don't know if I'm going to continue it. I may, it kind of depends
You
on.
you should.
We'll
You
see.
should. We love your
um,
painting, so you should continue, Mr. Sal.
well, I
It's your
appreciate that.
legacy. Legacy for your generations to generation to come.
That's
Wow.
true. That's true.
Yes.
And so this one was based on sort of the old comic books, movie posters between like the 1950s and 60s, right? Like horror movie posters and such. I was really into, and I still am, Tim Burton, like the early Tim Burton movies, like Batman Returns, particularly Edward Scissorhands. And then I would say there's a little of Michael Jackson's Smooth Criminal sort of in this character as well. And so I sort of blended all of that together. Originally, this was supposed to be sort of a self-portrait. This is how I saw myself, sort of constructed out of building materials, right? So it's almost
Yes.
as if the Chrysler building was coming to life. And actually, I have a couple paintings that predate this one that you're looking at that
Yes.
sort of that do that very thing. It's a self-portrait made out of pieces of stainless steel. But then I sort of took it into a darker direction with this part and created this character based on, again, sort of pulp comics, right? Like neo noir, noir, like film noir, right? So
Yes.
think of the seedy underbelly of a metropolis, of a big city. And so the strangers, in a way, like Batman or like the Shadow, those classic characters, sort of overlooking the city. You don't really know if he's a friend or foe of the city, though, right? He's sort of in between. And so, yeah, so this one just sort of, I produced it sort of really quickly back in 2008. I remember exhibiting it at Art One Gallery in Scottsdale, Arizona. Somebody owns it. I don't know who, right? It
Mm.
was I'm fortunate to say it had sold at the time, and then I sort of I let the stranger go to sleep for many years. I didn't really do a follow up. I had some ideas along the way for doing future ones. Nothing really materialized until fast forward to 2020 when we started, again, during the pandemic, during the lockdown. I think I mentioned in previous episodes that that was a very productive period for me as a painter, and I think it was very productive for every creative person during that time, right? Because we
Yes.
just had suddenly we had so much time, we were stuck in our homes. So the stranger sort of reawakened during this period of time, and he would sort of be a social commentator about what was going on in the world. I picked up on some headlines. It was a very divisive, volatile time in history, and kind of like today, kind of like right now, right? There's a lot of headlines that I used to sort of reawaken this character and give each painting some sort of message, right? So in this one, this was the first of the new batch. I bring the stranger back. This is 12 years later. He looks a little older, I guess, right? All you really see now are his eyes, but you still see the brim of his hat. And then I have, in keeping with the original, I had this title here, "The Stranger of New York." This time I sort of came up with this typeface to sort of define the stranger. So the title of this one is on the actual canvas. It's called "What Face Are You Wearing Today?" It's about you know, false personalities, being phony, being phony versus being authentic. And sort of, the stranger is there to sort of look right through the mirror at the viewer and challenge the viewer and say, "Who are you?" Right? I think I was also inspired by the Beatles song Eleanor Rigby when Paul McCartney is singing about wearing the face that she keeps in a jar by the door. So it's almost like you put a face on before you go to work or before you greet the outside world. And so, to follow up, what face are you wearing today? I have all these strange sort of pinkish purple. I don't know what they are. Are they little blobs? Are they are they jelly beans? But each one has its own sort of expression. Some are sort of smiley, some are frowny, some are afraid, some are laughing, some are sort of nervous, right? So it's almost as if every personality is being reflected onto one of these little pinkish orbs, whatever they are, right? And then I started, during this time, I should probably refer to it as he started, the stranger, right? Because it's not me. The stranger started signing them,
Mm.
right? And so here's the signature of the stranger. So this one's called "What Face Are You Wearing Today?" I follow that one up with this one, which is called "Too Much Will Kill You." And
Wow.
it's really about gluttony, but it's also about the love of money, right? I think,
Greediness.
we are unfortunately, we see it every day. We're in a culture, we're in a world where money is um, worshipped, I feel, right? And it's terrible. Um, if you ask me, or I think anybody, with decency, money is a tool. Money is just a means to obtain other things. But some people let money go to their heads, and so that's why I devised this really, you know, generously proportioned character, let's call him.
Yeah.
I thought about the face a lot. What would this character look like? Here he is. He's literally eating money, so he enjoys it. His face is almost like an ATM where the money goes right into the slot, which doubles as his mouth, and the dollar sign and these two little glowy orbs are his face, right? But I mean, if you look at him, he's very, you know, he, no holds barred, right?
Yes.
Um, and then here's the stranger, really just acting as, again, an observer, but you don't even see the stranger fully, right? He's just sort of a shadow. He's like a specter,
Yes.
sort of overseeing this and warning, I think, warning us, warning the viewer, but also warning this character below that too much of that green stuff will kill you, right? So then that was the second one. Uh, the third one, I was I was really paying attention to, um, sort of the unresolved racial problems that's going on in the country at the time. So this was 2020. Uh, you had the George Floyd murder, right?
Oh, yes.
You had the riots happening. You had the world sort of, or at least America, sort of uh, reacquainting itself with its historical demons. That unfortunately there's a lot of uh, terrible racism in this country, in its history, and so I wanted the stranger, despite his menacing looking, uh, design, I wanted him to be on the side of good, right? I wanted him to be combating racism in some way. And I'm thinking to myself, what better way to show that than having him literally strangling a KKK member? and getting ready to throw him off of a cliff. And and then I'm thinking, well, what does the landscape look like? It's going to be this sort of lava-laden, strange, almost like a moonlit surface of some kind. And then in keeping with the traditions of this series, I have the title right on the painting. In this case, it's Racists Fall Eventually, right? So, racists can be very loud in the media, they could be very loud just in general, but eventually they will go down. That's my that's my belief, right? And here's again the stranger signing off. And then, okay, so then that was 2020. I had one more in me, and this one is probably the most personal because a family member of mine, a dear one, is combating cancer and has been for many years now. And then, I was thinking of how could the stranger, in addition to fighting racism, fighting gluttony and the love of money, right? What would the stranger do about the problem that is cancer, right? And so this here it is, right? It's basically a 1950s style horror movie, like The Thing, right? Or It Came from Outer Space. I was inspired by, again, all those old movie posters. The title of this one is It Wants to Grow, right? And that's
Mm.
exactly, as for anyone who knows of cancer, struggling with cancer, knows someone who has it, that's all it wants to do, right? It wants to sort of take over. It wants to just keep replicating and replicating. And so that was the title for me. I turned a cancer cell into this sort of, eight-legged monster. And then I have these little subtitles like any movie poster would. Can the stranger stop this cancerous fiend? Right? And so there's also this, it wants to grow, and the stranger saying, but I say no. And so the stranger's, sort of entangled in this battle. He's being sort of gripped by the cancer cell, but then he's fighting back with this sort of radioactive energy force, which you could call, chemotherapy, right? You could call it any sort of treatment that we have to fight cancer in the real world. Um, and, and
Definitely.
with each of these, I was really interested in pops of color, right? Bursts of
Yes.
color. So there's a dramatic contrast between the background and the foreground elements in each, right? This one is sort of a matte black backdrop, um, whereas, the character in the front and the building skyline below, they have almost this artificial studio light applied to them. This one, obviously, the pinkish orbs really pop out, as does the stark white of the title. In this one, right, you have, I think, the title, the yellow around it really pops, but also this giant figure below pops as well. And then here you have, the colors of the outfits that the characters are wearing really pop. And finally, I think this one, I love the contrast between this sort of aqua bluish, this bluish green, juxtaposed with this very bright pinkish purple texture that the cancer cell has. And so, to take this thing even further,
Yes.
when I created this, I developed a manifesto, which is sort of like a declaration for, the stranger, right? And so during the time of the pandemic, I wrote this, and I'm looking off screen just to see what I wrote. And again, Daniel, I want you to critique the hell out of this when I'm done, right? But here's the original mission statement for the stranger. It is, I am witness to a system in free fall where loyalties have run amok. Post-pandemic society has reawakened me, and I see that accountability must be restored so that we the people are in on the joke and light can be shed on darkness. No more tricks, no more deceit. I am a reflection of this sea change. I am the stranger, right? And
Wow.
so also for a while I had, well, he had a separate Instagram account, which is still active, but it's going to be retired soon. um, but on that account, there would be posted time lapse videos, messages, sort of things along the way as we were getting through the pandemic. Some were messages of hope, some were messages that were much more sort of observational, sort of meant to make you think a little. So, again, I think, doing this has its risks. I did these mainly for me, I think, almost as therapy to get these concerns that I have about the world onto a canvas as soon as I could, as quickly as I could. Each one of these paintings, with very few exception, I didn't have a lot of preconceptual sketches. I did not spend a lot of time, planning them out. It was kind of every everyone was sort of like a spur of the moment decision. Each one had a sort of, had to be there at that moment sort of decision making process. Meaning I don't have a lot of sketches and extra drawings related to this character. I think the very first painting from 2008, I do. I have a couple sketches, but in 2020, I just sort of freewheeled it. And I just sort of said, let's see what happens, right? Which I enjoy that technique, but I tend to, as you've seen in past episodes, I tend to create a lot of sketches beforehand, but not in this case. But anyway, that's The Stranger, and I'm sticking to it. So I wonder what your thoughts
They
are.
are magnificent, Mr. Sal. For me, one of a kind because doing nothing during the pandemic because people are weary, people are in panic mode, people don't know what to do, and I think
Mhm.
you really depict what pandemic is. So my question is, what method did you use to create texture for all those paintings?
For the texture,
Yes.
um, not much. I did use just layering. Each one is not very texture heavy. Um, so some of my techniques did carry over from my normal work, working from the background to the foreground, for example. I think I did that on everyone. But
Good.
in terms of texture, they're pretty smooth. I think, this one, the racist fall eventually one, it looks like there's a lot of texture going on that background landscape, that broken, fractured earth with the lava. But in reality, it's all just lighting. It's lighting tricks, right? To
Yes.
achieve that look. And then even this one, there might be some texture on the back of it wants to grow painting, this backdrop here, but not much. I mean, these tend to be very sort of smooth.
Is smooth and wow, beautiful.
Thank you.
Miss
Dark but beautiful.
Dark and beautiful. So, Mr. Sal, thank you so much for sharing
Thank you.
your paintings to the world. I hope you will continue doing that because it's your legacy. Oh,
If
as
you say
be
so.
yes, yes, as being one of Mr. Leonardo da Vinci DNA. Please do continue. Do your artworks.
Those are some big shoes to fill, Daniel.
Big shoes, but well, because you have the passion to do it, I know you can do it.
Thank you.
Right? What are the famous painting of Leonardo? Of course, Mona Lisa,
The
right?
Last Supper,
The
Mona
last.
Lisa.
Yes,
Yeah. Um,
awesome.
he developed helicopters, tanks.
Bridges, I think.
Yes,
Fans.
bridges. I mean, he He did it
Phil,
all. I love him. I love Michelangelo,
the
which we talked
competitor.
about. Yes, yeah.
Because
It's like Google and Apple.
Google and Apple, yes.
Did
So
I
which
just say that?
yes. So which one do you want? Google or Apple? Or Leonardo da Vinci or Michelangelo? They are
That's
both.
another that's another age-old question. Yeah, can I have both? I'll, I'll
Me
take
too.
both.
Me too, both. They are good in their own way.
Yes.
So let's preserve their legacy. So, before we go on, Mr. Sal, please do listen to my baby podcast. It's called Low 101 with Mr. Andy Simichuk. Please do listen to our latest episode because we talk about Mr. Donald Trump.
Oh wow.
Mr.
I heard.
Donald Trump about his immigration, what
Yeah.
humanitarian aid, Mexico border, national emergency, something or air on and at the Mexican border. So please do listen, Law 101. So Mr. Andy Semichuk is immigrant lawyer. So we are talk about mostly about immigration law. But nowadays, that Mr. Trump doing his immigration policy,
Mm.
so Mr. Andy want to talk about it. So please do
That's
listen. Law 101. So Mr. Sal, what else you can say about your five paintings that are magnificent?
hmm. Well, they were, self-portraits.
Yes.
I went crazy. I dug deep. I swung the bat, and I
Yes.
went for it. What can you do? And I challenge everyone again. I always remind people at the end, create something. Create whatever's deep in there, deep in your heart and
Yes.
mind. Get it
Yes.
out there. Get it on the surface. No one cares if it's good or bad. Just
Yes.
get it out there.
Go to the world, people. Speaking of creating, I have another new podcast coming, Mental Health 101. So please do tune in and listen. Please support because we're empowering mental issues all over the world. So, Mr. Sal, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks again, Daniel. Have a great week. Thank you, everyone.
More to come, people. See you soon. Thank you, Fitchpot and Player FM for being number one best abstract podcast.
Night.
Thank you.